Hi, my name is Jaco Gerrits. I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder of CrashDetech. So I've got a holding company called Dynamics Technologies, and what we do is we look for new opportunities, specifically in the tech industry. So whenever we feel that there is a viable opportunity, we'll go out on risk and we'll commercialize ourselves. So the latest venture is called CrashDetech. Very excited about the latest venture. So just a short summary, it's a smartphone app. Once installed, you forget about it. If you're involved in a serious car crash, it picks it up automatically, pinpoints your location, and immediately dispatches the nearest ambulance. So effectively what we're trying to achieve with that is two things. We want to reduce the emergency response times, and we also want to ensure that you get the correct medical treatment. So yeah, we've been in market now for 3 years, and this is really the exciting year for us. We're busy scaling up the operation. We've recently done a fairly big licensing deal with one of the biggest short-term insurers. So yeah, 2017 is going to be an exciting one. Now, so one thing that I always do, and I always tell entrepreneurs that they should consider doing this as well, is read a lot. So I was reading about some of the sensors that are available on smartphones today. So there's one specific sensor called the accelerometer. Normally it's used for screen orientation. So if you tilt your device, obviously it changes from portrait to landscape. But one thing that you can also use the accelerometer for is to detect the force that's applied on the phone. So yeah, I think the idea jumped into my head after reading an article. And then when I started doing some research, some of the realities really shocked me. 1.3 million fatalities on our roads across the world, 50 million injuries. It's costing developing countries a lot of money, and there's a big economic and also impact on society. And I knew that we had the technical expertise in order to develop a solution that can really address quite a big problem that we have in the world. So funny thing is, after school I went on a gap year, worked in fish factories, so I did pin boning. I was a general assistant, so I made beds, and I think it was a very interesting year. I actually realized during that year that I can't work for someone. So as soon as I came back, I actually had an opportunity to pitch to privatize transport for one of the major mining companies. I was still very, very young. It gave me a great opportunity to prepare a proposal, sit in front of some big wigs and do a presentation, which failed miserably. But I think more importantly, I learned a lot of valuable lessons out of that exercise. And I also tell entrepreneurs that all of the time. It's all about the mindset and how you perceive failure. You can always use failure to your advantage because there's always a lesson to be taken from it. So yeah, shortly after that, I actually had an opportunity to do consulting for the same mining company. I did a project up in the northern limb where we established a skills database for one of the major projects, and out of that we actually ended up going to Rustenburg to duplicate the project. And I eventually even built a company out of that, which is still running today, called Tembela, where we go into local communities, where we establish a skills database and also a SMME database, linking them with the local economic opportunities. So yeah, I think if you can summarize, I think I've probably always been an entrepreneur. Funny enough, I've never actually worked for somebody, except for that year that I was overseas, and it's been a very rewarding journey as well. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I think sometimes entrepreneurship finds you more than anything else. And just coming back to the previous question, I think I came to the realization that I can't really report to somebody. I've got bigger dreams. I think also in terms of how I define success and how I want to live my life, the standard 8 to 5 was definitely not going to cut it. And yeah, I think I just naturally fell into entrepreneurship, and today I'm probably one of the biggest advocates when it comes to entrepreneurship. I think the beauty about entrepreneurship is that it shapes you as an individual. I always say that you need to grow as an individual. You need to become the best version of yourself in order for your business to be a success. And if anybody has the opportunity or thinking about it, take the jump, take the leap. It's probably one of the best moves that you'll ever make. It's interesting. I think there's that quote that says entrepreneurship is where you go from one failure to another without any loss of enthusiasm, and I really think that's me. So I had many ventures, many failures. Whenever somebody asked me to do an interview, up until today, I just shake my head and I'm like, it's actually funny, because if there's one thing that I've done, it's fail, and I fail often. But I think the one thing that I've done right in my entrepreneurial ventures is adopting the right mindset and seeing failure for what it is, and learning a lot of valuable lessons from it. So every venture that was a failure was actually just preparation for the next. So I'm so grateful for the journey that I've had. It's been 15 years. It's not been easy, far from it, but it's definitely shaped me as an individual. And where I am today, extremely grateful. Now, I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this sense that it's all about the external challenges. So you hear a lot of entrepreneurs talking about access to capital, or let's say talent acquisition. And yes, by all means, there's a lot of external challenges if you're an entrepreneur. I think the ones that you should be cautious of is the internal challenges. So I struggled with that personally. You've got a tendency to lean towards whatever you're comfortable with. For me, I was very strong on the technical side, so I was actually a programmer. So for me to lock myself in a room and spend 6 months coding a solution that I believed in was very easy to do. The reality is I had self-doubt. I had fears in order to take the solution that I was developing to market. I was very scared about rejection. I wasn't comfortable with sales. I didn't put myself out there, and it's probably one of the first failures that taught the most valuable lessons to me as well. Go and test your assumption against your prospective market. Is there appetite for the product that you are developing in silence? Reality is, in my scenario, no, there wasn't. And I think that's a big thing. The internal challenges, I think, is always bigger than the external challenges. And coming back to what I said earlier, if you can adopt the right mindset, you can overcome anything. So I get approached by entrepreneurs a lot, especially in the tech space, and they always believe it's all about the idea. It's not about the idea. It's about the execution of the idea. And you always have this assumption that, you know what, this product, or let's say this service, could be a good fit with the market you have in mind, but it's just an assumption. If you haven't tested that assumption, there's no way to know if it's going to work. And I actually had an interesting question a while back where people said, with CrashDetech, it was probably massive risk that you guys had to take. And funny enough, no, it was actually very small risk. It's how we went to market, testing the assumptions to make sure that, you know what, we can actually distribute this product. So with CrashDetech, after that article that I read and after coming up with this idea, I said, okay, how are we going to distribute this product? And before we do anything, because obviously app development is very expensive, let's come up with something that's very low cost, a nice brand. So we did a corporate identity, which was not that expensive. We did a very nice presentation, and we actually had some screen designs for the app. But keep in mind, we had nothing other than that. And we went to market. So we actually went to one of the distribution channels, which was dealerships. And we said, guys, this is a new product. It's the most exciting thing you've ever seen. It's not a regulated product, it's unregulated, which means our commission is going to be double what you're earning already. And it's addressing a key pain point. Especially think about families. What would you do to make sure you get EMS services to your family in time? So we tried to establish that emotional connection and yet again test our assumption if we were able to sell the solution in the market. And I only pulled the trigger when we were able to sign up 50 dealerships. So we had a 100% conversion rate, but more importantly, I knew that we had the ability to distribute this product. And only then did we actually pull the trigger. So coming back to your question, I think if there's anything that you can do, always go out there and test the idea against your prospective market. It's not about the idea. It's never about the idea. It's about the execution. Yeah, so I've got a very good friend, Craig Bowen. So he's country manager for New Balance at the moment. And Craig Bowen actually put me, or he mentioned this book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And the Lean Startup methodology is actually based on this exact principle, where you should go out and test your assumptions against your prospective market. So we, up until today, we still have a lot of business discussions and entrepreneurial discussions in terms of talent acquisition, recruiting, how you scale a business. So it's still a valuable asset, and I think it's very important to surround yourself with like-minded people. There's so much you can learn from people. And the funny thing is, as you progress in life and in business as well, you actually realize how little you really know. So yeah, I've got a couple of great advisors. I think also it's something that I probably would have done differently. I probably would have engaged with people a little bit earlier so that I didn't have to learn the lessons for myself. So maybe one or two mentors would have been a wiser decision right at the start. But yeah, nowadays I definitely rely on other people, and I love bouncing ideas off people that also have a good understanding not only of my business but also of me as an individual. Yeah, so to me personally, I've always believed that you can use business as a force for good. So with CrashDetech as well, we were very fortunate to win the top social venture in South Africa. So it's very nice to have an external party to almost validate that which you set out to do 15 years ago, you're on the right track. So at the end of the day, I believe that you can use business to make the world a better place. I think if you could stand up in the morning and you're really living out your passion, you're excited to do what you want to do, and it's aligned to making the world a better place, then I think you're pretty much on the right track. So success, I think it means different things to different people. But I'm very lucky, and I'm also very grateful that over the years I've been able to shape a life that I've always dreamed of. So yeah, I think we can probably just thank God for that as well. So it's probably expected. Elon Musk, great appreciation for what he has achieved. And then I think there's two, Steve Jobs, which is also probably expected, knowing that I'm in the tech industry. So I think if you look at both of them, absolute visionaries, and I think the attention to detail and the ability to execute is second to none. So great respect for both of them. Definitely. I think I mentioned it in the earlier question where I said, you know what, reality is you don't want to bump your head all of the time. If somebody has done that before you and there's a valid or a great lesson to be learned from their experiences, try and learn it as early as possible. So I think in my early years, and let's call it 5 years, there was a lot of bumping head exercises, and yes, although it's a great learning curve, and I think there's great experience that you can take from that. Having a mentor by your side, you can circumvent a lot of the challenges that I personally had to go through, and I think you can really cut down the development time of your business as well, and you can also, I think, grow not only as a business but as an individual a lot quicker. Life-changing.